Canadian black metal has been quite much on the map in the past few years, mostly so because of the strong Quebec scene. However, Canada being a big country with lots of big cities, obviously there are lots of other places where the music is also coming from, even in the terms of black metal. This time what we have here is a band called Blight, a band that already once kinda decided to call it quits a few years ago, but then came back around 2011, and now they are here 2020 with their first full-length album, and that's what we have here for you, dear audience. And this is how the CD looks like, released by Swath Records. Here is the CD, and finally the booklet, which features always so nice skulls, like skulls, you know. Oh well, this ain't no typical Canadian band, obviously. This is something different, and by typical I mean the very strong Quebec scene, or metal noir québécois, which seems to dominate the Canadian black metal these days very much. Nor is this related to bands such as Blasphemy. There's nothing death metallic here. This is very modern stuff. One could even say this could be an Icelandic band. Let's take a look at the band's Metal Archive site for basic information. As I was mentioning Quebec earlier in this review, I was totally referring to Quebec City. However, Quebec is also the province in Canada, and there are lots of cities there as well, one of them being Montreal. So this could be very well being part of the kind of a French-Canadian black metal scene. I don't know, to be honest. The basic promo letter doesn't even mention that, nor this album kind of indicates anything related to this French-Canadian or Quebec's metal noir black metal scene. Be it as it may, this is still part of the French-Canadian territory or province. And here you have the basic information. As you can see, the discography is already quite vast, even though there are no full-length albums. By vast I mean you can see demo, split, EPs, and a couple of compilations, which usually are kind of self-explanatory, given that these previous albums are right there. But this one is Temple of Wounds, and it features some 50 minutes of music during 8 different tracks. Not exactly short tracks, as you can see, but not the longest one available right there, but still between 5-7 minutes. This is something that is kind of very different from those bands that are just in and out with a rather fast pace and all. Now, putting Blight into a certain box is kind of hard because it doesn't really reflect so many other bands. I mean, whether we're talking about 80s first wave black metal or the second wave 90s and early 2000s black metal, Blight is exactly neither of those styles. What I would actually like to call this band is kind of a modern black metal. And by that I mean the so-called third wave black metal, which is very prominent in 2020 and obviously 2010 and straightforward from there. Now, that style is somewhat kind of a mix of different genres, or rather subgenres of black metal, because that is kind of a blending ideas from the fast tempo bands and more like these kind of dissonant modern bands, and then some other ideas. Now, for example, there are synths a little bit here and there as a seasoning, and same could be said about these clean vocals, which are there once again to create a little bit of flavor, so to speak, to this kind of music. Now, I must mention vocals as the screamy ones, or shrieky ones, I guess, because they are really good. I mean, they are one of the best things, or maybe the best thing on this album, because they're really raw, hateful, and very inhumane. Unfortunately, that is one of the very few things which I'm really happy about this album. The other being the overall production, because as it seems, the band is very strong when it comes to these vocal parts. The band is quite good when it comes to the production, but when we are talking about the actual songwriting, it gets a little bit messy. Now, don't get me wrong, there are lots of individual good ideas on this one. Some of the riffs just great, some of the riffs not so great. And when this all is put in together, you know, like a big bowl of salad, you start picking out certain pieces rather than enjoying it fully. And the salad metaphor could be continued as such. Too much is that boring lettuce that is tasting basically nothing. So instead you go like cherry picking these. Hey, these tomatoes are good. These pieces of chicken or tuna, just okay. But too much of that green stuff. So in my opinion, Blight is basically there. They have all the right ingredients to make this a wonderful meal. But most of it all lacks salt, lacks pepper, lacks that overall seasoning or something that makes it really enjoyable. Like for instance, this could be, in my opinion, some nice 20-25 minutes in EP where all this extra fat, all this extra lettuce rather, would be just cut off. Because now I find this album enjoyable here and there, but those parts are too few, too scarce. And as such, I am a little bit divided. While on the other hand, these vocals are just tremendously good. And the overall feeling is like, yeah, there's some sinister, there's some dark vibe, which I enjoy. But too much of this album is like, yeah. So if this was a reaction video, I would be mostly like, I hear ya. Yeah. Okay. Hey, that's a good one. Oh, it's gone already. So I don't want to be too negative about it. I think you should give this one a fair chance. I did anyways. But I am not just convinced. Then again, this is just the first album. Who knows, when maybe a couple of albums more out, this band could be just blasting their way out of the scene and saying like, okay, this is how the black metal Montreal could be doing. So quite nice attempt, but no cigar. Anyway, take a look at these samples. You will find them already on the Bandcamp site. I guess the full album will be there later on when this album is released. And when it's released, the 5th of June in 2020. So take a look at the band from the Bandcamp or other sources, and what can I say? I hope you enjoy it more than I could anyways. Take care, be well.